it's got to the point now where I'm just so fed up with these people who've never even played the game spouting shite about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and they call themselves gamers, but they are not helping the gaming industry. They are literally trying to destroy a game that we've all been waiting for a long time.
The representation in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 works because it's invisible. It's not shoved down your throat, it's just there. No need to justify itself or talk in circles about it.
The reason why I'm a little bit turned off by this is because we've been asking for transparency, and this is making it look like, yeah, you should never say anything. I'm gonna just keep it a bean. If I'm Daniel Barbara, I'm looking at this like I should have never said nothing to these niggas. I explained the entire situation, and these niggas are still mad.
There is a gay sex scene, there is a same-sex relationship, which there was not in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. My stance on this is simply that if you want to have the option, have the option. It doesn't bother me that there's a gay romance scene in the game if I can avoid it. I really don't care.
It isn't a woke game. It's just in there if you wanted to do that. And I'm sure somebody might want to do that.
I think if you refunding it, I think that's fucking stupid. If you're refunding the game because there's allegedly a gay scene in it that you can choose not to participate in, I think that's fucking stupid.
Oh, and don't get me started on black people. Yes, guys, those existed for a while too. But not in Bohemia, you might be screaming for in your mom's basement. But guess what? He's a medic, brought in by enemy forces, an explorer. Yes, black people left their homelands to travel the world. It wasn't some isolated, only white people exist fairy tale.
And it's entirely possible that in a major, huge metropolitan city at the time, there would be a black guy or two, particularly in the court of a king. I'm happy with that. That makes sense to me.
Henry doesn't suddenly become gay or bi because the developers decided it. His sexuality is completely up to you. His personality, your choice. It's all about choices. So I am begging you, put down your phone, go outside, touch some grass.
The fact is, Daniel still lied. I don't know anything about that. You know, I'm pretty sure every single person in this stream has lied. So, you know, I don't care. When I buy a game, I don't go out to dinner with the developer. I play the game. If the developer has lied, do you want to know how many fucks I give about that? None. I don't care.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is woke trash, and Warhorse Studios has sold out. They wanted that sweet ESG money, and they're about to get it. And it's amazing, it's actually pathetic rather, that there's so many people simping hard for this game and are, for whatever reason, unable to notice the patterns, because when it comes to other games that shove propaganda and DEI and wokeness in your face, they can notice it easily. But when it's subliminal, they have a very hard time seeing or noticing anything or even connecting the dots as to why this game in particular is indeed woke trash. Allow me and Jenpachi to explain to you why there is justifiable outrage towards Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and why the simping for this game is absolutely pathetic. Now, if we to read the words of the developers, we will know that the developers, Warhorse Studios, has stated before that Henry is indeed straight. So all of a sudden now in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, he's bisexual for whatever reason. I mean, we know why. The thing is that Henry is not a blank slate. He's a predetermined character. You can't just do whatever you want. This is not Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Elder Scrolls, or Fallout. He's a pre-made character. It's very similar to, say, Geralt in the Witcher series. So it is not like where, say, Witcher 3, Geralt is all of a sudden bisexual and he wants to get it on with Vesemir. I mean, who knows what will happen in Witcher 4, but that's another story. But with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it's obvious why they made this change, and it's not a matter of, it's a player choices. Do you have the choices to make however you want? No, that's not how it goes, because canonically, Henry is straight. That's why there is outrage over the gay romance scene. And just because you may have to jump through hoops, or it may be a rare instance that many people may see it or experience it or not, it doesn't matter. They put it there for a reason. If it's so rare that a few % of people are actually going to experience it, why put it there in the first place? They can put a gay romance in there, but you can't allow you to see a barber for your hair, for your facial hair, just like they actually had in the first game.
So yeah, thanks for having me. And you know, there's a lot to discuss here, and what you said is pretty interesting, and it's true, where you had the person on YouTube address comments, whoever runs the YouTube page or whoever's the manager of it or whatever, they're literally replying to people, telling them that Henry is not a blank slate, that he has a backstory, he has a love interest, that he's a straight Christian. So the people who are acting like it doesn't matter don't understand that that's a complete shift, a total 180 from what was said about the first game and what is said about this game. You know, and that's kind of like a sign that somebody got in his ear, got in his head, whether it be DI, whether it be Embracer, whoever it may be, somebody has definitely gotten in the ear of the company where they're doing this. You can't have I find it hard to believe that you have an opinion regarding Henry in the first game, and then you go full 180 and all of a sudden it doesn't matter, when most developers won't even respond to comments like that and won't even say anything about the characters, like gender or like their religion or whatever. So they went out of their way. I'm emphasizing this a lot because it's so important to understand. This dev went out of their way to let you know as the player that you're playing as a straight white Christian man with a love interest. And I think when it comes to this controversy, I think if it was an original character that wasn't Henry, maybe they'd have some wiggle room to say, well, it's not Henry, it's this new character. They could have had something in the story where, you know, you have to hide the gay relationship, or if you get caught, maybe there's some consequence given the time period. I mean, that won't prevent it, that won't salvage it from being some, like, you know, woke BS where they're trying to, you know, cater to those people. In the end of the day, even that's more forgivable than this, where it's like there's a clear trail of things that were said that don't add up. So whether you're excited for the game or not, you can't really knock people or be mad at them for criticizing this, because they're just holding them accountable for what they themselves said that they didn't even have to say or respond to.
Exactly, and the point you had made about holding companies accountable, Warhorse Studios should be held accountable, no different than how people hold other studios like Ubisoft, Bethesda, or BioWare accountable for their bullshit. Warhorse Studios does not deserve a pass. I don't care how much you like the first game, how excited you are for this new game. It doesn't matter. For people to act like this is organic or it's not forced, that's a lie. Because Henry, again, is canonically straight, or at least he once was. So why have it there to begin with? This is such a minor thing in the game that many people will apparently miss, according to Werfabai, the shill Werfabai, that he even said himself. The funny thing is that if it's so minor that people are going to miss it, why is it even there? The reason why it's there is because the Warhorse Studios wants to check off boxes. That's what it comes down to. So this is not organic. This is the complete opposite of that. Because you're changing a character for obvious reasons. You're changing a character to pander to the modern audience and to get some extra money.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because how are you going to have a gay relationship in a game if you don't know it exists? So clearly at some point in the game, it's going to be placed in front of you. They're acting like it's it's going to be under the radar. Most players will avoid it. You have to know that the character's gay in order to romance it. So romance him. So he'll either hit on you, or it'll be some indication, some indicator where he tells you he's gay. Maybe they talk about the discrimination against gay people in the game. There has to be some method. I'm leaning toward the latter, actually, with them mentioning something about how gays are discriminated against and whatever during that period. There's going to be some indicator. So by default, it's going to be put in your face whether you like it or not. It just depends on how much of the world you explore. And being that it's a RPG game, I'm pretty sure that if you're exploring and talking to different characters, you're going to come across it. So I find that to be total BS. And as far as the other chick, I keep forgetting her name. Mewish. What's her name? Moore. Whatever her name is. She's sitting there and talking about, black people existed back then. Coño, todos son bigots. everyone's mad. You need to get off the internet. Meanwhile, people like that are seeking out simps. You're on Twitch all day. You're on YouTube, from what I understand. You're on Twitter. You're posting a bunch of stuff. People need to stop making that argument. If you're a content creator, you're online all day. You cannot be calling other people out when you need that simp Twitch money. So let's get that straight. And secondly, if she didn't even call the character by their name, which is Musa, and Musa is not just the Musas were part of the Mali Empire. They had zero interactions with Bohemia, zero. Historically, there have been none. I'm not making this up. You can look it up for yourself. First off, the history of the character of the Mali people is somewhat like, obscured a bit because there's some like lost information. But on top of that, the history that they do have when they did interact with Europe and accounts of their interactions with the European people, like such as Venice, Spain, I believe Portugal, Well, there's mention of them, but nothing about Bohemia, nothing about Northern Europe. And that's to say that you're gonna put these characters in the game to literally force diversity. Anyone who thinks it's not forced diversity is lying, because when you use language of like, well, it'll allow us to tell interesting stories, as if there isn't a ton of interesting stories you can tell with characters from that era, from that region. And you want to pretend that he's basically telling you that by adding a black character to the world, it's somehow this super exciting thing that's going to really change the game. Then you're taking real people, a real race of people in history who never interacted with them and are trying to justify that as the reason because they existed in the same time period. They're from the, in the 1400s, there were Musas. They just never interacted with Bohemia. So to go and do all of that and then be backwards from the first game with like what you're doing, like the picture, if you add everything up together, it shows you what they're about. And if you think that this is all done in good faith, I got a bridge to sell you.
I want to add on to this about Musa. While there's several Musas, and none of them have went to Bohemia, there's no records of it whatsoever. One of them in particular that you'll find, which is probably the only one really notable that you will find, had died in 1337. So how is he here in 1403 if this is the exact one that is going to be in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? And even if it wasn't, again, like you had just said, and people can look this up, there's no records of any of them coming to Bohemia. So again, why is he there? And on top of that, Daniel Vavra himself even stated a few years ago, he responded to someone saying, the truth is that there were no black people in medieval Bohemia. But all of a sudden there is now? And no one's not allowed to point any of this out? We cannot criticize the developers because they're allegedly based? That's where we're at now? So we can't criticize the black character? So we can't do that? But then you got people who apparently, will call out the woke shit, but then are very pleased with this information. And I am perfectly fine with the black character. These people are making it seem like, they're pretty much compromised, because once it's a game that they're interested in, then, all the radars are off and they act borderline retarded when it comes to this. But if it's any other company, then, radars are up and then they know. This is the same thing with Starfield and even Baldur's Gate 3, where people apparently who were against the woke shit were defending those games hard. Even a bunch of people who were going hard defending Dead Space Remake with the fucking all gender bathrooms. That was avoidable, right? Even though, yeah, you'll come across it. No one's like technically talking about it, so I guess that wasn't woke, but it was. And it's no different with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Doesn't matter if it's avoidable or not. It's there, and it's there for obvious reasons. And the fact that there's so many people who want to act retarded over this, like the brains are not working anymore because they're so hyped and excited for it. Again, like I said before, it's pathetic. It really is. And it shows that these people really ain't about calling out the woke shit. They don't want gaming to get better, because once a game comes along that interests them enough, so much so, then they're gonna simp for it no matter what. and then gonna call anyone who dares criticize it to be radicals, and we can't act like radicals. Like, no, fuck you.
You know, to bring things full circle, the problem really isn't that there's a gay and black character in and of itself. It's the fact that they're doing this in a game about 1400s Bohemia, and they're literally going backwards on what they said, you know, a few years back. So that's the conflict here. You know, it's not because people hate black characters or they hate gay people or whatever. Yes, gay people existed then, but they were often persecuted. And again, it's going to be hard to implement something like that without having some kind of social justice narrative about how it's wrong to be, you know, to kill people because they're gay or to ostracize them. That's obvious. If you're going to have a relationship like that in a game, you know it's going to play a factor. It's virtue signaling. You know, they could have made an original created character. It probably would have been more forgivable. I know I said that earlier in this video. There's so many ways they can go about it, and really, if all these people care about diversity so much, they should be putting games in Africa. Make a game about the Mali Empire. Make a game about Egypt. Make a game about Muslims. Make a game in the future where you can have a created character who's gay. You can do all these things, and it would make more sense than having all of this shit shoved into a game about 1400s Bohemia, for Christ's sake. Like, come on. You know, there's so many ways you can go about this, and I want people to understand the real argument, because so many people try to misrepresent it, try to gaslight, say, oh, you're just bigots, you're just this. Well, it's not about being a bigot. You can't in one breath say, oh, our game is historically accurate, but then you want to add in fan fiction. And on the other hand, you can't say this character was, you know, Henry's a white Christian male, that's what we intended, and make a long speech, which I'm sure will be in this video. You'll be able to see the comments for yourself. You can't go from that, have a complete 180 in the course of a few years, and then sit here and try to condemn everyone else for being as crazy or being bigots because they're calling it out.
Let me address a few people. Worfabai, or should I say Worfashill. This guy is a fucking coward. He makes a dedicated live stream to damage controlling for Warhorse Studios. Goes after people who dared make videos rightfully criticizing the game, and on top of that went after his own chat for not buying the bullshit he was trying to spew. Then, after he deletes the live stream like a bitch, he goes and makes a community post playing the victim and claiming that there was such disgusting and terrible comments on his chat that, of course, he doesn't show because it's typical leftist tactics where they claim that they're getting death threats and all this other terrible stuff, but then they can never show you any proof of it. And then, what does he do when the comments are not going his way, just like his live stream? He deletes it like a bitch. And the icing on the cake is that he openly said that he does not care if a developer lies. He does not care if a developer lies to him or any of you. Now again, what was this guy standing for again? Remind me, because right now, it doesn't seem like he stands for a goddamn thing, as long as he's able to get some early access to anything that's coming out. Especially if he's really into the game. In this case, worth a buy, he ain't worth shit. Let's put it like that, because after that, all credibility out the window. This guy is a fucking bozo. As for Nure, however you say your name, I don't know if you're trying to play the contrarian or you're trying to seem like you're the rational one in the situation. I don't know, maybe you're new to this whole like woke, anti-woke thing since you really just blew up once you had the playtester for Dragon Age Veilguard on your channel and really built off of that from there. And it's kind of funny when you mention that people should just mind their own business. Obviously that's in reference to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 because you don't like what people are saying when you pretty much rose to popularity and gone viral over the last few months when it came down to Dragon Age the Veilguard because you dug deep into what was going on and analyzing things within the game, what developers were saying, and even getting inside scoops based off of a playtester. So why couldn't you take your own advice and mind your business and not worry about what developers were doing? Because you had no problem staying in check 24/7 of what BioWare was doing when it came down to Dragon Age the Veilguard. And just to be clear, I don't mind if people want to find out what developers are doing what they said or what's going on behind the scenes, 'cause that's important for people to know. And that should be the case with any other game if people want to know what's going on. So when it comes to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, yeah, people should know and be aware of what bullshit developers are doing, whether if you like it or not.
Yup, so thanks for having me. It's been fun. It's been a great discussion. And also, like, to everyone watching, don't let people like New Ray, Archcast, Warfabai, Trace, whoever it may be, don't let them gaslight you into trying to change your position on the game, because in the end, a lot of these people are shills. They're hyped for the new thing because of the graphics or because of what the gameplay looks like. And if the game's a 10 out of 10, it doesn't matter. Because even if it's a 10 out of 10, if it has things in it, practices that you don't like, you don't have to support it. You don't have to buy, you don't have to play it. You don't have to listen to these people. You don't have to play the middle just to, like, stay neutral because you don't want backlash. It's the reality of it, And if you want to play the game and you want to enjoy it, that's fine too. Go ahead. No, by no means is anyone stopping you. But to expect people to sit here and accept revisionist history and accept like literal lies and BS from the developers and from shills and from people that are riding a hype train, like, that's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna do it. Rev's not gonna do it. There's a bunch of people that aren't gonna do it. And the reality is, none of that shit belongs in a game about 1400s Bohemia with an established character. Any way you twist it, it's fucking stupid. Anyway, thanks for having me, and I'll see you around, man. Maybe on the next one or another video, or maybe the podcast. Who knows? Should watch that. Anyone who hasn't seen it, watch the podcast. All right, catch you later.
Definitely, it's always great collaborating with you, and it'd be great to do it again at some point. But as far as Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 goes, here's my thing with this. It's like, is it too much to ask for a game to just have a straight character, especially in an RPG? Like, does it always have to be gay, bi, trans, non-binary? Like, is any of that really necessary? Like, does these games have to have that? Again, is it too much to ask just to get a straight character? Especially when they're predetermined. When they're not a blank slate. Does all these games have to have an influx of minorities? Can it just have the one race? I mean, that also applies to if a game was set in Africa. We don't need to see whites. We don't want to see whites there. Just leave it where it's in Africa. Leave it with Africans. Same thing with Japan. Unless you're telling a particular story in history that definitely for sure happened, then that's a different story. But if you're gonna go in the route of history, you're trying to follow it as closely as possible, DEI should not even be in the equation. But the fact that it is here and is blatantly here, no matter what people want to tell you, no matter how much they want to gaslight and make you seem like an extremist, because you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And that's what we've seen. And people want to back down now because, this game piques their interest. No, that's not how it should be. Fact is, this game does not need DEI. And unfortunately, it has that because the developers at Warhorse Studios have sold out. And Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is indeed woke trash.